Saturday night this weekend, NXT No Mercy. And I will say that, I am not the biggest fan of these NXT pay-per-views as I did back in the day. I don't think anybody is, but every so often they do venture to get, a few more eyeballs and a few more reasons to get your eyeballs on them this weekend. It's from Bakersfield, California. A few interesting news and notes, I guess, going around NXT No Mercy. WWE has been featuring a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of the talent on main WWE programming, but I feel like this NXT pay-per-view has got a lot more traction on the Raws and SmackDowns due to its involvements by, Becky Lynch, who is the NXT Women's Champion right now and should be facing Tiffany Stratton in an Extreme Rules match for the championship. Dominic Mysterio against Trick Williams for the NXT North American Championship. Dragon Lee, who Dom faced the other day, and that's where I had that tie-in for, NXT stuff on WWE programming. But Dragon Lee, who faced Dom the other day, will be a special referee in that North American Championship match. And then you got people like Braun Breaker versus Baron Corbin, Carmelo Hayes versus Dragunov, and the British Rounds Rules match for the NXT Heritage Cup. So I guess we'll start there with the Heritage Cup before we get into the news and notes of the big stars. The Heritage Cup, for those who really don't know, and I don't know much either, Noam Dar, he won this cup as part of NXT UK a couple of years ago, and they decided that he was going to have to essentially defend it, so they created the NXT Global Heritage Invitational. That is what Butch ended up winning. Butch ended up getting a win this past week on NXT programming to earn his spot. So it's Butch with Tyler Bate versus Noam Dar. I don't know what British Rounds Rules are. I guess I'll have to.
I can break it down for you. So the matches consist of 6 3-minute rounds with 20-second breaks in between each round. Matches are 2 out of 3 falls. Falls can be won by pinfall, submission, or countout. Once a fall occurs, the round is over. The match ends once a wrestler has won 2 falls. In the event of a disqualification or knockout, the match instantly ends without the need of 2 falls. If all 6 rounds are completed, whoever is ahead on falls wins the match. So essentially, it's 2 out of 3 falls match, really.
So no DQs.
Yep.
That's very British and regal to make sure that everybody's very clean and gentlemanly like in this match. Let's see. The matches, like I said, it consists of 6 3-minute rounds. So I guess. It comes down to whoever wins, the match ends once a wrestler wins, has 2 falls. I mean, it's essentially you have a 3-minute round. Nothing happens. There's a break. Another 3-minute round. Nothing happens. There's a break. Yeah. Another 3-minute round. Somebody gets a pinfall. There's 1 pinfall. The 4th 3-minute round. Someone gets a pinfall, and it's the same guy. Match is over. And then also if there's if there is a fall in the match, whether it's submission, pinfall, countout, that round is over. Yes. So I guess my question is, it says if all 6 rounds are completed, whoever is ahead on falls wins the match. Well, imagine if you're going through all 6 falls here, it means that, because you only need 2 to win, right? So if you're going through all 6 falls here and we don't have somebody having already won 2 out of 3.
It's 1-0 probably.
That's the only other way, right? Because if it's 2-1, it's over.
I wonder what happens in an event if it's 1-1. Do they go to like a sudden death match?
That's what I'm saying. There's like only one scenario in which all 6 rounds are completed. Someone has a lead, and it's not 2 out of 3. The only scenario is if someone has a 1-0 lead, because any other scenario would be 0-0 or 1-1, which would be tie and tie. And then the other scenario other than that is 2, and that ends it right there. So it's kind of strange how they have this rule where it's if all 6 rounds are completed, whoever's ahead. Well, once you get 2, it's over. So the most you can ever be ahead is 1.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
To me, it's just overkill, like 2 out of 3 falls match is what it is.
Now, don't get this confused with the Duchess of Queensberry rules match, right? Don't get it confused with that.
Yeah, don't get that confused.
Yeah, the Duchess of Queensberry rules. A Duchess of Queensberry rules match is a single match contested under specific, often undisclosed rules, replaced by a title meant to sound traditional. That the only Duchess of Queensberry rules match that we've ever seen in WWE history was Jericho versus William Regal at Backlash 2000, I believe it was, or 2001.
Yeah, it was over 20 years ago.
Yeah. But that kind of reminds me a lot of this, except for the rules are known here. I'm just curious, and I'll be interested. I'll watch this and I'll see what WWE does with this format and with this rules, because obviously they have something in mind when they create something like this, and it kind of makes me think of the next WWE or NXT pay-per-view that comes after this. That'll be in December, that they've already announced. That is going to be Deadline. Now, we saw Deadline last year, and that's a whole nother set of things. Deadline is like this match-specific, like time-constricting match. I think that goes out throughout like the whole show or whatever it was, or maybe it was just the main event, but was like the championship match. And I think it was for the women and it was for the men. But we'll get into Deadline closer to that event. But the NXT Heritage Cup, which if it's already confusing enough, right? Because it already went from NXT UK to regular NXT. There's only one champion from what I make out that ever held this thing, and that's Noam Dar. Actually, no, the inaugural champion was a kid, better known as Carlos Ruiz, who's Spanish. He won it at Worlds Collide on September 4th, 2002. Okay, so it says the inaugural champion. Okay, no, correction. He was the first champion in 2020. And then in 2022 is when they kind of made this new Noam Dar, I think, won in 2022. Either way, it should be a good match. Forgetting the championship nonsense that's on the line for it. But
are you gonna watch the pre-show match? It's got B. Priestley in it, aka Blair Davenport.
No. Because I'll barely watch the show itself if I watch the show, right?
I want to watch Carmelo Hayes and Dragunov. That's going to be a hell of a match. I'll probably watch Breaker and Corbin. Obviously, Becky and Tiffany I'll watch. I am curious to see what happened with Dirty Dom, especially with Dragon Lee as the special guest referee. That's going to be interesting. I do like the fact that what NXT is doing is, we've talked about this on previous shows, where they're bringing in more of the main rosters, superstars. To me, I always say it's to help the next generation of main event stars. So for me, and it's bringing more eyeballs, like we talked about. It's going to give these guys and gals, a chance to work with some of the best in the world. So for me, I think it's a very positive thing, and I think as long as it doesn't get oversaturated, like it'd be a problem if like 3/4 of the matches were all like main event roster people, then you're taking away too many opportunities. So you have to like work that fine line where you're doing enough to get a few extra eyeballs to watch Becky Lynch and Dirty Dom, for example, but you're not bringing like the whole Raw or the whole SmackDown roster and essentially invading NXT for no reason. So the card doesn't look too bad. Like there's a few matches here in particular that I'm definitely interested in. I'm curious. I really am curious to see what happens with Dragunov and Hayes. I think that's going to be the match tonight.
Now, my question with Dragunov, would you like to see Dragunov become the champion and then kind of use the championship on main roster television? A lot of people have talked about, obviously, Gunther and Dragunov maybe having matches down the line. Obviously, Gunther is still the Intercontinental Champion. Would you like to see him come as the NXT champion and kind of toy, his involvement in the main roster with the NXT belt, or just stay on NXT with the belt? Or would you like to see him lose, not become the champion, and then officially move to the main roster?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because both of these stars, Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov, they both deserve it to be on the main roster. Like, they're ready. Like, these guys put on great matches. It's like them and everybody else in NXT, I feel like. So, like, it's, you're not going to bring them both up at the same time because that would really deplete the roster in NXT. So, for me, I do think that Ilya wins. And I think he wins because I feel like Carmelo's coming up soon, like officially. Like because they were talking about a roster spot being available because of Jey Uso. So I'm wondering how that's going to play out, because Cody Rhodes mentioned that on television recently, where there's still an open spot, and Adam Pearce kind of was like, "Yeah, we're still working on it." To me,
Do you think that's going to be an open spot via this, not via like a trade from somebody over from SmackDown?
It's possible. Like no one's there's.
Or over
I can't
to
lean.
SmackDown?
I can't lean one way or the other. To be honest with you, because I don't. To me, I feel like the most practical way of doing it is to bring up a Carmelo Hayes in the deal, because I feel like he's due, he's ready, and I think it'd be cooler than just like a regular, like, okay, it's like a baseball trade, a player to be named later, like a month later. Like I don't want any of that. Like bring up, to me, I feel like they should be like, all right, well, in this case, we're gonna really make Shawn Michaels mad, and we're gonna take his guy Carmelo Hayes and bring him to the main roster. That's just my guess. I haven't heard anything one way or the other. It's just an educated guess. But I do feel like Carmelo Hayes is probably going to get the call up before Dragunov. That's just my opinion.
I would say I feel like Braun Breaker moving on to the other match. I feel like when he comes to his call up, I don't think he's not ready. He's ready. He's been ready. That's without a doubt. But I don't see him coming up, in the very, very near future, because I still think there's more for him to do. Obviously, the whole Von Wagner thing down at NXT.
Braun is definitely going to be in the Royal Rumble, in my opinion. I think he's in the Royal Rumble, and I feel like maybe the road to WrestleMania is where he gets the call up. I mean, it sounds weird to say, but I feel like Carmelo Hayes, he may not get the pomp and circumstance of like, okay, he's going to be in the Royal Rumble and that's it. Like, to me, I feel like you can bring him up ahead of time and do some really good things. Carmelo's a star on his own. So like at this point, I don't care if it's just on a SmackDown or whatever, because we've seen some cool things on SmackDown. So it's in Raw. So to me, I don't really care if it's on a pay-per-view or not. Like if the crowd gets over, the crowd gets over. It's gonna be or he gets over with the crowd. So it's I don't really care, to be honest. I just can't wait to see him up there. I think Breaker's coming up sooner rather than later. But if I had to guess, I would say Melo is going to be up there first.
The two main roster stars that have championships, Becky Lynch against Tiffany Stratton, and then Dominic against Trick Williams. Who is leaving still NXT champion, and who is dropping the strap? And it's kind of confusing a little bit, or a little interesting, because Tiffany Stratton obviously has been toying with Becky Lynch to feud here, but also I think not just Becky Lynch coming down to raise up Tiffany Stratton, but Tiffany Stratton is essentially now being raised up to the point that we could see her, make more of a name on the main roster. And well, obviously if she's champion, that kind of keeps her at NXT for sure. So in those people, who's leaving with belts? Who's not leaving with belts?
I would say if there's one that's leaving with the belt for sure, I do think it's Dirty Dom. The reason why I say that is I do think Mommy shows up. That's just a gut feeling of mine. I feel like Mommy shows up and and still plays a role and helps Dirty Dom hang on to his title.
And I think, obviously, one way I agree with you there has nothing to do with him essentially being champion or NXT involvement. Is essentially the group, everybody's got something. Everybody's got the props. Yep. Titles are props. They're just to advance stories. They're just cool things to make yourself look more important. So, again, Dominic Mysterio needs one of those, because you got the tag team champs, you got the Money in the Bank, you got the women's champion. So I think that's Dominic Mysterio's thing. So I think he needs the belt essentially just so when he's involved on Raw and other shows like that, everybody in the group's got gold. It's an all gold group. That's kind of the gimmick they got going on there. Now, Becky Lynch, I imagine she's going to lose the belt back to Tiffany Stratton. I imagine her time is kind of done, but also at the same time, I don't know what's next for her on the main roster. Obviously, she's had some comments lately about, other women, bringing themselves up. We talked briefly about, Jade Cargill. Now she's officially in WWE. And somebody brought up this story kind of on an offshoot here a little bit. Remember, it was Monty Brown who came over to WWE from TNA Impact at the time. The WWE announced that they were bringing in Monty Brown, but later when he eventually did make his debut on ECW, he was Marcus Corvan. So the Jade Cargill thing, it's cool at first, that they're announcing Jade Cargill. She's coming, Jade Cargill's here, but we don't know 100% yet. based on the past that she will exactly be Jade Cargill. I hope so. But Jade Cargill now here, obviously in WWE, but Becky Lynch has talked about other women needing to rise up to the challenge. She's getting a little bored, if you will, and that's probably why she is over on NXT. She's doing something to keep herself busy. She can only just feud with the same people over and over again.
Exactly.
So if she does lose to Tiffany Stratton, that obviously Tiffany Stratton's already got the rub. She's already got what she needs. But what's next for Becky Lynch after this?
I think the next step is there. I feel like Nia Jax is going to be involved somewhere. I feel like, obviously with what's going on with Nia Jax, obviously with Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez, I feel like that's like those are the folks that I really think they're going to be next. Obviously after this weekend, because I do think maybe some Tegan Nox action with Becky Lynch is that's going to be a good one as well. But after that, going forward, I would say it's probably they're going to rehash probably the whole Nia Jax. I think Raquel Rodriguez would be a good one as well. There's not a lot of depth. Jade Cargill, hopefully they get her up to speed pretty quick because the depth in the division is just really weak, especially with Rhea Ripley being out. So obviously somebody as good as Becky Lynch, like you're literally just like, all right, well, yeah, we'll find somebody for you, but like, I don't know. Like it's just Becky Lynch is that much more talented and over than the rest, in my opinion. Jade Cargill is going to be a good thing because I think Jade Cargill is going to bring some extra oomph to the division where that's needed right now. And whatever she goes by, Jade Cargill. I know we were talking the names last week. We'll see what happens, but the real question is, how quickly is she going to be called up or like essentially brought up to the main roster? She's not going to NXT as much as some people may think she should. I don't think she is. She's going either Raw or SmackDown. She's going to be on the main roster. I just don't know when. I know obviously it's going to happen, but when is the real question. So for me, I hope they get her up to speed soon because obviously WrestleMania season's not that far away. So obviously I expect Jade Cargill to be in a major storyline heading into WrestleMania season.
We got like 6 months before that. Sticking on to
NXT.
But
WrestleMania season though is I look at WrestleMania season to me is you're leading up to Royal Rumble so January to me, which is by the way we're in October almost, at the end of September. It's only a few months out. Like we're not that far away.
Yes.
So it gives her time to get acclimated to the WWE. They get her ready, and because how much does she really need to do? Like that's the real question.
Have you not seen Jade Cargill? I think she could come out the Royal Rumble right now. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing though, we've seen that in the past where like you think, okay, somebody's coming that like it's been in this company or that company, and it's like they don't always get going right away. Like look at Brian Pillman Jr. I know it's a way different example, but Brian Pillman Jr. was like he was facing Jon Moxley at one point. He was doing a storyline with Jon Moxley in AEW, and he's been at the Performance Center, I feel like, for a bit, and we haven't heard a thing.
And that's another. Well, we have this past week. That's funny you mentioned that. NXT during television this past week played a vignette of a man in the shadows watching television. What was he watching on television? He was watching a program which had WCW Saturday Night's logo flash across the screen, as well as football with the Cincinnati Bengals. So he was watching.
You kind of know where it's going. Yes.
He was watching a retro Cincinnati Bengals game, and then it flipped over to WCW Saturday Night, aka the two things back in the early '90s his dad was very famous for. So he's definitely going to be Brian Pillman Jr. I imagine when he comes in. But with NXT No Mercy this weekend, who knows? Maybe he could show up this weekend, right?
That'd be cool.
So with NXT No Mercy, one group of people who slid under the radar, did not get themselves released last week, who were on this card, the old quote-unquote main roster guys, if you will. Los Lotharios, don't forget about them. They're still employed. You might forget about them. They're down in NXT. Humberto and Angel Garza.
Wait, try that again. Humberto
Carrillo and Angel Garza. I guess before, because I used to just always call him Humberto on the main roster.
Humberto Carrillo.
So Humberto and Angel Garza, they'll be going for the NXT Tag Team Championship this Saturday night against the champions, the family, which is that Italian group, Tony D'Angelo and Channing Lorenzo.
Yeah, Stacks. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
the
think
Creed brothers
I
as
think the
well,
Creed brothers
and
win.
OTM.
I
You
think
think?
Creed brothers win. That's. I mean, to me, I like the Creed brothers. Like out of this group, I feel like the Creed brothers. I think they're due for a run. So I feel like I like the Creeds. I think those guys I have high marks for, and it's only a matter of time before they get to call up. But I don't. I mean, I feel like that might be a little ways away. But how do you get yourself ready to be called up? You have a good championship run. So let's get the belts on Creed brothers.
You should watch this weekend's NXT No Mercy because Shawn Michaels says it is NXT, in which is the closest thing to the WWE Attitude Era of professional wrestling in the modern day. Take that for what you will. I've never watched NXT 1 minute and thought that I was watching the Attitude Era for a second. Shawn Michaels also stated, in case he's just looking to do anything, anywhere, Shawn Michaels said that CM Punk, he'd welcome him onto the NXT brand. I feel like Shawn Michaels has taken the NXT brand and he is like it's his own thing. He's not doing the let's play by the rules as in I'm just here to develop stars. He's like, this is my own company, man. If WWE wants to get rid of NXT, I'll take this thing off WWE, move it down to San Antonio, Texas, and make it the next OVW or whatever, my own company. Like he's just like, I don't think like he understands.
Well, let's not go that far. I don't think that's happening.
Well, no, but I guess it's just funny how he says that, like, I would take CM Punk. I don't think you understand the minor league aspect of NXT. NXT only exists really to develop the stars of the future. I don't think they're looking for their own specific stars.
How
like have
unexpected
CM
would
Punk
that be,
be
though?
exclusive.
How like I know like obviously the
it'd be very unexpected, yeah, and it would probably boost the ratings for sure.
Yeah, I mean maybe CM. I mean, here's the thing: a lot of people still aren't talking about like WWE and CM Punk are not exactly on great terms. Like obviously the way they departed like all those years back, like so like people are just gonna be like, oh well, they going back. Is he gonna go back? Here's the thing. Vince always, would bring guys back in the day where like, maybe things didn't go well and then they left, they went to WCW and then like came back, whatever the case may be. I don't know with the CM Punk situation. I feel like with how AEW ended and how things played out for CM Punk, I would be surprised if WWE would want to bring that kind of added.
Yeah, and that's the point I guess I'm trying to get at here is it's not so much CM Punk in WWE. That's the most outlandish thing I've ever heard. It would be CM Punk specifically in NXT. It's just
it would be cool though. I mean, as much as CM Punk is who he is, for as a wrestling fan solely, that would be crazy cool. Like I feel like that would be. I don't like I said I don't think it would ever happen, but it would be. But also at the same time, you get nervous because obviously there's not a lot of people in AEW that have said nice things about CM Punk in the back stage area. So it's like, would it be a good idea to have CM Punk kind of like mold some of these young minds? That could be playing with fire.
Whoa, you want CM Punk to be the influence?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if they were going to bring in the NXT, that I would be very cautious because I feel like that's playing with fire a little bit. So, good for Shawn Michaels. He's really putting himself out there like that. But at the same time, CM Punk, I don't think he comes back.
A local tie into that, I guess you could say, is Deion Sanders. His very final game in the world of professional baseball after having quite a long professional baseball career playing in the World Series and what have you, was locally here in Syracuse as part of minor league baseball as he was trying to essentially resurrect his career just a little bit more. So he finished out at a much lower level of that sport than he was at one point. So could CM Punk's final stop in the world of professional wrestling be at NXT developmental? I doubt it, but hey, I tell you what, if he does show up to NXT, NXT is going to get a major boost. I would say that would be the step on making NXT what they wanted to do for a while, but then they've had to step back a little bit and making it the third brand. I definitely don't think it's the third brand right now. I think it's developmental for sure, but I mean, if you bring CM Punk there and keep Becky Lynch as champion, boy, I mean, that could be an AEW competition like it was trying to be a couple years ago once again.